Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be predicting the UCL round of 16, so let's get into it. So we're going to start off with one of the biggest games, PSG vs Bayern. For PSG, the UCL group stage campaign ended on a sour note, finishing second behind Benfica on fair play. But despite this, they did look good throughout the group stage, drawing to a strong Benfica team twice while winning their other 4 games. Bayern were drawn into the group of death with Inter Milan, Barcelona and Victoria Pilsen. But it didn't look like that at all, as Bayern won all 6 games. The Bavarians scored 18 goals in the group stage while only conceding 2. Ever since the conclusion of the World Cup, we haven't seen either of these teams at full strength, as PSG have rested numerous players while Bayern only started league play on the 21st of January. Speaking of league play, both these teams are on top of their respective leagues. Yeah, I know, PSG and Bayern both being on top of the league. What a shocker. But there has been some controversy at Bayern as of late. Sadio Mane and Kingsley Coman both been out of form recently, while Serge Gnabry is falling out of favour with the fans after leaving to go to a fashion show in Paris. It was a joke before, but Eric promoting might actually be their best attacker. Bayern have recently boosted their squad with the loan signing of João Cancelo, and have also signed goalie Jan Sommer to replace the injured Manuel Neuer, who I do rate. But for me, PSG have an edge. While their best 11 haven't played much since the World Cup, the individual talents have looked good, whether that be for PSG or at the World Cup. Obviously Messi won the tournament, Mbappe scored a hat-trick in the final, and Hakimi went to the semis. There's a lot of good momentum in that dressing room right now, and for me it'll give PSG a slight advantage. So what's my score prediction? In the first leg at Paris, I'm going for a simple 1-0 to PSG thanks to a Kylian Mbappe goal. Then in the second leg, I think there'll be a lot more goals. Mbappe will score a brace and Neymar will also score. Joshua Kimmich and Sadio Mane will score for Bayern but won't be enough, as PSG win 3-2 and move on to the quarterfinals with a 4-2 win on aggregate. On to our next match between AC Milan and Tottenham. This is another interesting matchup. Tottenham won Group D after a thrilling final match day where they could have fallen out of the tournament completely, while Milan finished second behind Chelsea. Milan didn't look great in either match against Chelsea, but aside from that they looked fine. Both Milan and Tottenham are 5th in their respective leagues and have had very mixed seasons, but Tottenham will look to be strengthened by new signings Arnaud Danjuma and Pedro Porro. Now history says that this will be a low scoring game. You've got Tottenham being managed by a notoriously defensive coach Antonio Conte, while Milan historically are one of the best defensive teams of all time. But I'm going to ignore his inflicted 2-2 draw in the first leg. Tottenham will take the lead twice with Pierre-Emile Højbjerg and Arnaud Danjuma, but Milan will answer both times to Ante Rebic and Brahim Diaz. Then in the second leg in England, I'm going to predict a much more boring game. It'll be 0-0 for most of the match and we'll look to go to extra time until a Son Heung-min goal in injury time sends the home fans into limbs. Tottenham 3, AC Milan 2, as Tottenham advance to the quarterfinals. Next up we have Club Brugge vs Benfica. Benfica top what many thought would be a difficult group consisting of PSG and Juventus, while Brugge shocked the world as they finished second in Group B, knocking out Leverkusen and Atletico Madrid. Now if you would ask me to predict this tie back in November, I might have tipped Club Brugge for an upset. Unfortunately, Club Brugge's manager is now Scott Parker. People who follow Club Brugge close tonight have actually justified the decision to sack Karl Huijskens, pointing out that Brugge haven't been playing well in their league games. And that's all well and good, but Scott Parker? Really? With Huijskens I might predict Brugge to win, but under the reign of Scott Parker, I'm less convinced. And let's not forget, Benfica are doing well right now, being comfortably on top of the Premier Liga. They've also strengthened their squad this January, bringing Gonzalo Guedes on loan. Despite this, I'm still going to predict the first leg in Belgium to end 0-0, and a frustrating day for Benfica as Simon Mignolet makes 8 saves. But in the second leg, I've got Benfica finally taking over. I'm going to go for a 3-0 win with goals from David Neres, João Mario and Gonçalo Ramos. This gives Benfica a 3-0 win on aggregate as they qualify for the quarterfinals for the second straight year. Now on to Dortmund vs Chelsea. Surprisingly, this is the first ever competitive matchup between these two teams. For Chelsea, they started this tournament poorly, only going 1 point in their first 2 games, but they would recover and win their next 4 games, topping Group E. As for Dortmund, they won 2 of their first 3 games before going on to draw the next 3, but this performance was good enough to finish second in Group G. Now if you follow Chelsea, you might have noticed they've signed a lot of players this window. In fact, they've signed 9. Some of these signings include Mykhailo Mudryk, João Felix and Enzo Fernandez. Now while Chelsea have signed some great players, there is a worry that the team is yet to gel. As I like Chelsea been playing well right now either, they're 10th in the Premier League, but I'm still going to give Chelsea the edge. In Dortmund, I'm going to predict a 2-1 win for the Blues as Mason Mount and Kai Havertz both score. Then in the second leg in London, I've got Chelsea winning 3-0. Mykhailo Mudryk will score, Enzo Fernandez will find the net, and a Nico Schulz on goal will round out a 5-1 aggregate win for Chelsea as they move on to the quarterfinals. On to a rematch of last year's final, Liverpool vs Real Madrid. Liverpool's UCL campaign started horrendously, losing 4-1 to Napoli. However, they recovered and won the next 5 games, finishing second of Group A. As for Madrid, they won 4 games, drew 1 and lost 1 to finish top of Group F. Now Real Madrid's form lately hasn't been great. Liverpool's has been worse. The Reds have suffered a massive fall this season, currently lying 9th in the league and knocked out of both domestic cups, which they won both of last year. To make matters worse, Liverpool's injury list right now is massive. Diogo Jota and Luis Diaz will both miss the tie against Madrid, and Roberto Firmino was questionable. But the centre-back situation is even worse. Virgil van Dijk hurt his hamstring a month ago and is now in a race to recover from the Madrid game. This wouldn't be that bad of a problem, but Ibou Konate didn't hurt his hamstring at the end of the month. The French centre-half will miss the first leg, and is unlikely to play in the second leg. And if Van Dijk doesn't make it back, the Liverpool centre-back partnership will be Joe Gomez and Joel Matip, with Nat Phillips and Reece Williams as the backups. It isn't great. As I mentioned, Madrid's form hasn't been great either, but nothing compared to Liverpool's. And with Madrid probably going to win the Club World Cup, it could be the motivation boost they need to finish off Liverpool. And I'm going to predict a battering in the first leg. It'll be 4-1 to Madrid with 2 goals of Vinicius, as well as goals from Karim Benzema, Luka Modric and a consolation from Darwin Núñez as Liverpool get destroyed at home. Then at the Santiago Bernabeu, I've got Federico Valverde and Vinicius scoring as Madrid win 2-0 and move on to the quarters, battering the Reds 6-1 on aggregate. Now into Eintracht Frankfurt vs Napoli. Frankfurt finished second Group D in thrilling fashion, while Napoli won their first 5 games and finished top of Group A. As you have been watching the Serie A this season, Napoli have been incredible. They've only lost 1 game and recently beat Juventus 5-1, and it was the same with UCL as they beat Liverpool 4-1 on top of the group. Their best player this season has been Khvicha Kvaratskhelia, with 9 goals and 13 assists in 21 games. And striker Victor Osimhen has also delivered with 15 goals in 20 games. Now, I'm not trying to count Frankfurt out here. They won the Europa League last year and are now 6th in the Bundesliga, only 5 points behind Bayern. But for me this just seems like too big of a mismatch. In the first leg I have Napoli winning 3-0 as Cavaro scores 1 goal and Osimhen scores the other 2. And in the second leg in Italy I've got Napoli scoring 3 goals again. Osimhen will once again score, and Giovanni Simeone and Piotr Zielinski will also score. Mourinho Moani will score a very late consolation goal, but it will mean nothing. Napoli will win 3-1 and move on to the quarterfinals with a 6-1 aggregate win. Now we have RB Leipzig vs Man City. Man City got out of that group as they topped Group C over Dortmund, Sevilla and Copenhagen, while Leipzig finished second of Group F behind Real Madrid. Now I've decided to take a massive gamble with his predicting an RB Leipzig win. Man City's form recently has been meh? They haven't been awful or anything, but it hasn't been the elite dominance we've seen from City in the past. Now they've loaned out João Cancelo to Bayern, which makes no sense to me. Cancelo has been great this season, but to loan out one of your most talented players without replacing him is just baffling to me. And sure, Nathan Ake can play left back, but he's better as a centre half. This sudden lack of depth in City's backline could hurt them against Leipzig. And Leipzig have been playing well this year, they're 3rd in the Bundesliga and are unbeaten in the last 17 games. And in the first leg, I think Leipzig are going to shock Man City with a 1-0 win, courtesy of a Dominic Szoboszlai goal. Over to the second leg in Manchester. City will look much better and will get close on some occasions, but goalkeeper Peter Golaski will have the game of his life, keeping everything out. Erling Haaland will eventually score me both in the second half, and around the 80th minute I've got Christopher Nkunku scoring an equaliser and silencing the home crowd. This will result in the second leg ending 1-1, and incredibly RB Leipzig will move on with a 2-1 in aggregate as Man City's UCL curse continues. And finally we have our final matchup, Inter Milan vs FC Porto. Inter did well in Group C to finish above Barcelona in second, while Porto pipped Club Brugge on the final day to finish top of Group B. And honestly this match could go either way. Both teams are in similar situations in their respective league right now, they're both second but well behind first. But into my prediction. For the first leg in Portugal, I'm going to predict a 1-1 draw, in which Otavio and Nicola Barella score. Then in the second leg at the Santiago, I'm going to predict Inter win 3-1, as Romelu Lukaku scores a brace and Hakan Calhanoglu scores a free kick, while Steven Eustáquio scores for Porto. This will give Inter a 4-1 on aggregate and send them into the quarterfinals. So those are my UCL predictions. Before I end the video, I want to apologise for not uploading anything in almost 2 months. After the World Cup ended, I wanted to make a review, but it was taking too long, and by the time I'd only got into editing, other people had already uploaded theirs, so I took a break. Then once January hit, I started my next project, a video essay about Morocco's World Cup run. And this is still in the works as well, it should be coming out around March and is about 50 minutes long. But while I was writing and recording the Morocco video, I basically just put all other projects on this channel aside. But now I want to upload 1 video a week while I continue to work on the Morocco video. And once the Morocco video is finally out, I'll try to keep up the weekly videos or even do 2 a week. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, why not subscribe so you don't miss any other content? As I said, I've got a 50-minute video essay cooking and I'm going to aim for weekly content, so you're not going to want to miss anything. But thanks for watching guys, have a good day and I'll see you next time. Bye.